Hey guys, Patrick here in Southwest Fort Worth, and I got a request this past week after my last video to focus on and give a little thing on these Angel Plus jars that I've got here and how I breed angelfish. So first off, you can buy these and let me show you here. If you go to angelsplus.com, you can buy for 1 gallon jars this material that makes a great rearing jar for angelfish. And it really does, it's fantastic. And not just angelfish, any kind of fish that is going to lay eggs on kind of a hard surface, like a lot of your South American cichlids, like your pistogrammas or your blue rams, as well as the angelfish and even the electro blue acaras. But I find I use them a lot with angelfish just because a lot of your angelfish, like these guys, I think they've laid 2 or 3 times and they've eaten the eggs every time. So I pull the eggs now just to make sure that I'm not getting no loss. And in that principle, I went and got some of the filter sponge material and put it on this breeder box. Most of them are in the corner there. But did that for these newly hatched Bristlenose Placos. And here's some older fry. Again, Angels Plus jar there. And what I do is I cut at the top of the sponge. I'll cut a hole and just put a tube, which you can see right here. And I put that tube so that I can feed without moving that top sponge. And I'll go and I'll take the eggs. I had some eggs here, but it doesn't look like any of them were fertilized. A bunch of unfertilized eggs in this jar. But I'll get a jar and then put with 3 or 4 drops of methylene blue. Put the eggs in a jar. When they hatch, they become wigglers. That's when I put them in the Angels Plus jar. As soon as they hatch, most of them are big enough to take some brine shrimp, but I do throw some vinegar eels in there. But then I go and feed brine shrimp. So what I am going to do right now, and I'll put this up. Let me kind of post this up right here. And I'll go and show you what I do with when I'm hatching brine shrimp and making brine shrimp. So I got this bigger jar. It was a big water jug, but you can use anything. And my recipe for hatching brine shrimp, I use 1.4 liters of water, and I'll just get tap water that does have the chlorine in it, because that's not gonna mess up anything. In fact, that's good. I'm actually gonna add some bleach to it, and I'll show you how I make brine shrimp. But 1.4 liters of brine shrimp, and then I get, and I'll tell you the recipe as I do it. So, but I'll empty this first bit in here. This I made yesterday, and then I will get a light, put the light on there, and the brine shrimp are going to be attracted to the light, so they'll all congregate at the bottom. While they're doing that, I'm going to make a new batch, and I do this every evening. So I'll wash out the old container. I keep the room at about 82 degrees, and that's a good temperature for the brine shrimp. I've got it marked at 1.4 liters, so I'll fill that up, 1.4 liters of water. Once I've got the 1.4 liters of water, then I put 2 tablespoons iodized table salt. One, 2. And again, it's just regular tap water. That chlorine is going to help kill off any bacteria or anything that might be on the eggs themselves. Then I do 1 teaspoon Epsom salt. I got this recipe off of an article, Tropical Fish Hobbyist, that was co-authored by, I think, Ted Judy and Mike Helwig. And you guys can look that up, but that was after they've done a lot of hatching of brine shrimp, that's the one they came up with, so that's what I use. And then, make sure we got a good angle there. Okay. So then I get my brine shrimp. Where did I put that? Get that real quick. So I get my brine shrimp. I buy it bulk from Brine Shrimp Direct. So I'll just get a can of brine shrimp eggs. I got the grade C 65% because of 65% are 100% hatching, and I did the math on it. Then the best value is getting the 65%. But if you don't want to deal with ones not hatching, then you can get a higher grade, a more premium grade. I'm good with the 65% though, because I go and I'll harvest this several times to make sure I get every hatched brine shrimp possible. But I put in a .75 milliliters, or half a tablespoon of brine shrimp eggs. And then one thing I do is I get some unscented bleach. Regular bleach. And I'll put in 3 or 4 drops of bleach on there. And again, that makes it so that any of those egg cysts don't have any bacteria. And by the time this thing is done bubbling, by tomorrow, all that bleach will have dissipated, but that chlorine will dissipate it. But right now, it's good. Right now, it's good for getting rid of any any bacteria that might be on there. So next step is, see that orange mass right there? It's all the hatched brine shrimp are now there. So now I'm going to collect those. And the way I do that is I've got a bucket here, and I've got a seine. I found a seine like this. Somebody else used that, but there's some cheaper ones you can get if you just look up brine shrimp seine. There's some plastic ones. Anyway, this one works for me. And you can look up the different diameters. It says openings in 100 micrometers. I got it off eBay. Okay, so I'm gonna try to do this one-handed so I can show you how I do it. I'm gonna go when I just remove the airline right up here. I might need 2 hands for this. All right. So I've got the airline removed. And the first part is going to be some unhatched eggs, and it's gonna go slow. So there it comes, and the unhatched eggs, and then I'm going to catch it once it goes and starts having a faster drip, and that's when I know that it's the actual brine shrimp. And you see that orange, those are hatched brine shrimp. Now I'm going to drain about half of that 1.4 liters into that bucket, half of that 1.4 liters of water in there, and then the other half I'll drain out. I'll leave it in this 2-liter thing again, do this again in the morning, and then I'm going to put it in one of these brine shrimp hatcheries. That way if there's any left over, I'll catch them in here as they swim up. So I actually harvest it 3 times to make sure that I'm not wasting anything. I'm not throwing any live brine shrimp down the drain. And while that's draining, let's take a look at this, and I'll talk about these Angelfish hatching jars. So I will leave them in there for probably around 2 months if I have the space, and I can leave them in there for that long, because they grow and they do well. I mean, they'll have their angelfish shape by the time I go and move them into a grow out tank. And you don't have to leave them in there that long at all, but you can. That's the cool part about those Angels Plus jars. They're fantastic, and you get a good rate of your angelfish that make it just fine. So, because we're about more than halfway, I'm going to take this, and with it just draining still, I'm just going to move this aside so that we're still draining, but now I'm not collecting that water. There it is, still draining through. You do want a light, so I have it turned off right now so that they'll go on here, but you do want a light that's on like 24 hours over wherever you are hatching your brine shrimp. And you can see these brine shrimp. It's amazing how much I get from half a tablespoon. So we're at a point now this light doesn't really matter anymore. Turn this light back on. That's the lights that's on there. And then I'll go and I'm going to take this, and once it seems like it's going slow and putting out maybe unhatched eggs, put it in there, let it drain out, Once that is drained out, I'm going to pick this airline back up. Just like so. And then I'm going to dump these unhatched eggs or hatched eggs. It's hard to do with one hand. Anyway, I'm going to dump this back into here and turn the air back on. Lid back on. And then I will harvest again tomorrow. This will be ready tomorrow evening. So I'll do this process again. Now, yeah, I'm doing this with one hand. I just use tap water. And what I do is, let me see if I can't set this up so that I can kind of use both hands here. That'll get us. All right. So, rinse out the bucket, and then I'm going to, just using tap water, I rinse off freshly hatched brine shrimp, and I take it, dump it in. All right, it's rinsed off. It's in there. Now I can take my turkey baster and it's ready to feed. So let's feed some of these. Angelfish. So again, I've got this right at the top, and put the turkey baster in, and then I'm just pushing it in. And once it's pushed in there, this is when they feast. The guppies are wondering where's theirs. You can see the brine shrimp swimming, and you can see the angelfish fry, snatching them up. The sight never gets old. Okay, I am going to go ahead and feed everything else. I hope this was informative, insightful. If you have any questions, let me know. Feel free to like and subscribe if you're so inclined to do so, and see you guys later.